Good evening and welcome to the Cleveland Community Police Commission's meeting for February 25th, 2026. We're located at the Midtown Collaboration Center at 1974 East 66th Street in Cleveland, Ohio. I call this meeting to order. I'm going to conduct a roll call attendance. Co-Chair Adams,
Present.
Commissioner Chura,
Present.
Commissioner Coleman is absent. Commissioner Kincaid is absent. Commissioner Mason,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Benito is absent. Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Rodriguez,
Present.
Commissioner Molson,
Present.
Commissioner Van Leer,
Here.
and I am present. I want to move forward to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes or concerns about the agenda? Okay, if none, all in favor of adopting the agenda as is, say yes.
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 Okay, does any oppose? Okay, so that passes. Okay, I'm going to read our meeting decorum statement. This meeting of the Cleveland Community Police Commission is a lawful meeting. Under Section 605.04 of the codified ordinance, no person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do any act which obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Members of the public are invited to speak in accordance with the public comment rules. Disruptions, including but not limited to speaking out of turn or making loud utterances that interfere with the due conduct of this lawful meeting, may constitute a misdemeanor and a violation of Section 605.04. If this meeting is disrupted, I will call for a recess of the room, and the room will be cleared. Persons who violate the city ordinance and commit misdemeanors may be subject to prosecution. When the body is able to return from the recess in compliance with the Ohio Meetings Act and Section 101.021 of the codified ordinance, the meeting will be open to the public again. Okay, so there's no one for public comment. We're going to move forward with our executive director report.
Good evening, community, and welcome to the CPC's meeting. I am Shalina Williams. I am the executive director here, and I just wanted to start again by saying how honored I am to be the executive director, your executive director, because everything that we do here at the CPC is in service to you. It is our mission, it is our mandate. And 5 weeks ago is when I started. And since then, there has been a lot that has happened. And so I want to share with you some of the things that has happened over the course of the last 5 weeks. The first thing is community grants. And I won't go into a bunch of detail because we do have our Commissioner Umason here who will give a full update. But I do want you to know that we have been working with United Black Fund to advance the grant process. And many of you over the past weekend we spoke with, and just to get a jump start on the grant process. And so I think that after our meeting with United Black Fund, we have a clear process moving forward, and we'll be following up with you guys shortly about a webinar that is soon to come. But like I said, I'll let Commissioner Umason give a fuller update on that. Staffing. Excuse me, as many of you know, there have been significant staffing challenges over the course of the year. I am proud to say that I have posted several positions on the city's website, and as early as next week, we're looking to start doing interviews to fill some of those positions. My goal is to, have everyone fully on board by September of this year. We're going to do the hiring in phases. And so we're going to start with my priority hires and then go into phase 2. And like I said, by September, we should be fully functioning and at full capacity. Last week, I had my first budget hearing with Cleveland City Council, and I am pleased to report that I received very strong support from many of our council members, particularly around accelerating the grant process and ensuring that this office is properly resourced with personnel and the tools that we need to carry out our work. I also completed the Commission's annual audit last week, and this reflects how fiscally responsible that we have been. Office space. I did submit a formal request to the city's real estate department to initiate a search for new office space. And so throughout the course of this year, we will be in search of new office space. Our current lease ends in October. I have been working very closely with Commissioner Kincaid and also our co-chairs and our team members to develop an aggressive and strategic community engagement plan. I'm excited to announce that we have some dates and venues for some upcoming forums. So we will be posting those events on our website and our social media outlets. So look forward to those things. And I've also been working very intently with Commissioner Benito to develop a comprehensive plan for our commissioners, training plan for our commissioners. The training plan will be to bring in some subject matter experts around the area of helping us to get skilled up on case reviews and conducting hearings. And so, as you guys know, this is a critical step toward resuming our court oversight functions, and more will be to come to follow on as the plan's finalized. And those are my updates for the last 5 weeks. I will turn it back over to our co-chairs.
Thank you, Executive Director Williams. I'm going to move forward to our co-chair report, given by Co-Chair Adams.
Good evening, everyone. Today, basically what has been happening over the past month is we've spent a lot of time supporting Executive Director Williams and doing what we can do to sort of make her transition as smooth as possible, and just assisting her. So that's one of the things that's been going on. One of the other things that we have been following up with is, if we recall, that there are 2 investigations or reports that we are waiting for from the Inspector General's office. One of those reports was started in January of 2025. It was requested by Dr. Lee Anderson of the Police Accountability Team, and it was regarding the uninvestigated internal human resources cases. So we are following up with that, and hopefully we will have a report soon, or at least have an update from the city. But we've been working on that, as well as a follow-up on the second request that we made, which was for a report from the Inspector General concerning the what they called settlements agreements with officers that, in our view, were outside of the scope of the police accountability structure, where the CPC was not involved in that process. And so we're following up on those 2 reports. Also, the monitoring team will be coming out with I think it's the 18th semi-annual report, and we have been requested to give input on that. So if there are commissioners who, we can send that out to everyone, and if you have any suggestions on any of those paragraphs that they requested information from, that will be gladly appreciated. And then lastly, and then we'll talk about this later on the agenda, but we've been in discussions about sort of this conflict of interest that is continuing. This particular one is regarding conflicts between the collective bargaining agreement and the city charter. So where things stand right now is and this is connected to the investigation from the Inspector General, because the justification that the city is using for the settlement agreement that is, we believe, is outside of the discipline structure is the collective bargaining agreement, that there are some clauses and agreements there that in their view takes priority over the charter. And so clearly our position is different. And so we will have to pursue this conflict, and we should discuss it because, it is my position that I believe that if there's a charter in place and then an agreement is made after that charter is in place, that agreement should be consistent with the charter. So, the city has a different view on that than us, and so I think it's worth us discussing and moving forward on that because it is a core issue as it relates to the independence of the CPC and the execution of the charter, which gives us the final say in discipline. So we can talk about that a little bit later, and for time reasons, I'll stop there, and then we can move on to the next part of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Co-Chair Adams. So the next part of the agenda are the committee status reports. So Commissioner Coleman is absent today. Do any of the Rules Committee members have any updates? If not, I'll move forward. You have anything?
I'm not prepared to.
Okay, that's fine. We're going to move forward to the Police Accountability Committee update. Commissioner Benito asked that I give her update. She stated that the Accountability Committee meeting was, they were unable to meet in the month of February due to a lack of quorum, and the committee will resume with their regular scheduled meeting on Monday, March 9th at 5:30 p.m. And there they will be discussing a proposal for reviewing charge letters to make potential discipline recommendations to the chief prior to the imposing of the discipline. And they are also working with E.D. Williams on getting training for the commission on reviewing cases and the investigative and discipline process. The Brady Giglio work group will be meeting in March to review responses from the community members that are interested in the work group. And then also, the committee is hoping to schedule their next evidentiary hearing for the complaint brought by community member Antoine Tolbert, which was approved by the Accountability Committee for a hearing in May of '24. They are working with E.D. Williams, but are hoping to have that on the schedule by the end of March. So that was the report given by, that was sent to me by Commissioner Benito. Next on the agenda is the Police Policy Committee. That report is going to be given by Commissioner Pete Van Leer.
Thank you, Co-Chair Zayed. So we have on our agenda tonight, we have 5 GPOs. I realize here there's one missing, but you all received that. There's the corrective action policy, the vehicle pursuits policy, and then there are 3 for wearable and in-car camera systems. There's the general one, which is the main one, and then there's supervisory reviews and investigations and definitions. So that's 3 separate GPOs that are all before us tonight. So I'll start with corrective action policy. So as you will recall, we passed this, I believe, in November. It was sent to the monitoring team and the Department of Justice for their review since it's consent decree related. And it came back to us with concerns around one specific part of the GPO that we passed, which was the creation of a Fairness and Consistency Committee that would do a review, a blind review of all discipline before final discipline was issued. We've had a number of conversations with division about this and have decided, because we really want to get this corrective action policy passed and approved by the monitoring team and the DOJ, it feels like urgent. So we have removed that from the draft that was sent to you last week to the commission. And it's basically, so just that section was removed, and mention of that Fairness and Consistency Committee was removed. The purpose of that was to review the discipline that was being given to ensure fairness and consistency and it was a blind review by particular members of a committee. So what you have before you is that policy. Otherwise, it's the same as it was the one we passed back in November. So I will make a motion to pass this as it is revised. Yes. Is there a second?
So before we discuss, do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
We have a second, so Commissioner
Thank you.
Nelson?
To the chair, one of the things that I was discussing with you on the policy committee was that I've given more thought to my suggestion that a alert or a shelter in place be issued by the police department whenever there is a pursuit through a school zone, whether it's during the exempt period or any time. And the reason I focused initially on just the pursuit part. And then as I gave it additional thought, it's not only the pursuit, but if a person being pursued is
We're not talking
So
about
point of
pursuit.
order, so I think right now we're discussing the corrective action policy. I think
okay.
the pursuit
All
policy is
right,
going to
hold
follow
on.
that.
We'll hold that. Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion on the policy? Guess we'll call for the vote.
Okay, Co-Chair Adams,
Aye.
Commissioner Chura,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Umelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer,
Aye.
and I vote yes. That passes. Good job.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the vehicle pursuits policy, and I need to call that up real quick. But basically, I think there's been a lot of conversation, individual conversations between a couple of the two members of the policy committee who were driving this work, Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Marrero Benito, and they. So what we have basically, the most recent changes to this, and there was a lot of work done on this over time, but we have a ban on pursuits, initiating pursuits between the hours of 2 and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday during the CMSD, the Cleveland Municipal School District school year, to avoid chases during that time when there's a lot of children, young people walking on the streets. So that is one change. The other was I'm going to for the pursuit to be initiated. We had some language in there around under procedures initiation criteria A2. Initially, it said that the officers. The suspect must be armed and dangerous. And we realized that language was too prohibitive because you never know. I mean, if there's any idea that they are armed and dangerous, you're not going to pursue. So we inserted the language of probable cause to believe that the suspect operating the vehicles or occupants within the vehicle are armed and dangerous. So those are the two more recent changes of the policy committee, but those are both in the document sent to you as commissioners last week. So I will make a motion to pass this GPO 4.01.02 vehicle pursuits as revised.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
The chair. One of the things that, as we discussed this, there are a number of issues, and I applaud the committee for its excellent work. But there's one other thing that I had raised with the commanders, and that was that when a pursuit is going through a school zone, or going through a school zone, whether it is during the at any time, that there be a alert issued to the school in the area that the person may be fleeing into, to have the students, the school, it'll issue a shelter in place. And while the pursuit may stop, the fact that a dangerous person who fits all these criteria is in that area, and they pursued them into that area, called off the pursuit, but the district should still shelter their kids in place because the dangerous person is in the area. And then when the pursuit commences again, fine, we go back to business as usual. But the fact that a dangerous person is there, period. And we have the tech. There was some pushback on, not by the committee, but by the officers on the ability to do that. But we have technology because they issue Amber Alerts all the time. And they come through the phone and every other means of communication. So I thought that we may want to take a look at that either now or amend it because it would need much more thought than we probably could give it during this particular part of the meeting. But that's something I think we should consider, either in a future amendment to the policy, because I don't want to hold up the policy today, but that's something that we may want to consider to protect everybody in that community in which the dangerous person, and the unclassified felons, of course, as has been identified, would be the kind of persons that we want to make the community aware of, so that no one would be in danger even after the pursuit is going on. Okay, thank you.
Chair.
Commissioner Mason?
I'm in agreeing with Commissioner Nelson. To me, that is a unrealistic position that we're putting our officers in. A criminal is not going to stop doing anything from 2 to 5, Monday through Friday. There are cities out here that do have alerts. I can name about 2 or 3 of them. When there is any type of police activities, they send out an alert to the schools, to the libraries, and any other activities. I know Euclid sent it to the court systems. I know Mayfield sent it out. I know Orange sent it out. So that is not something that cannot happen. I think that is something that we definitely need to amend. And we never want to put our officers in a situation that it could come back as a liability, or they can second guess themselves, or someone else can get hurt.
With all due respect, because Commissioner Mason, I know you have a lot of experience, but I don't know if you guys know, the only reason I am on this commission, the sole reason, is because my cousin was murdered as a result of a police chase that went wrong. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even be here. So in terms of talking about things that can happen, I'm coming from a perspective where something actually did happen. And I'm telling you what occurred, the impact that has had on my family. I'm telling you right now, it's not worth it. I believe that the liability that not having this in place is far greater than it would be if it was. A lot of times these pursuits are unnecessary. A lot of times the danger to the public outweighs whatever the benefits of the chase would be. And sometimes you can't foresee the risk that it's going to have with children. What if the schools have already let out, as it did with my cousin, when this potential threat is coming through the neighborhood, and it's too late to alert the schools, and hundreds of kids are walking down the street and are at risk? That is exactly what happened on December 20th of 2019. And I'm telling you, the loss of human life is far greater, and the devastation as a result of it, the liability is too much. I'm telling you, I believe that we need to make sure that our children are safe above all. As you said, the criminals are going to do what they are going to do. We have to make sure that our children are safe. That is just all I have to say.
To the chair, to the committee, let me make sure there's no confusion. I'm not saying that we should modify the 2 to 5. I'm saying we should issue the alert regardless of whether the pursuit is ongoing or has stopped. Just whenever there's a pursuit during the school day, So I'm not addressing the 2 to 5. I'm just talking about the school day.
Oh,
period.
thank you for that clarity.
Yeah,
I understand.
yeah.
So I
Whether
just
it's-
want to, because I'm sitting here listening, and I understood that was Judge Nelson's intention, what he meant, but I want to make sure that we're understanding Commissioner Mason's point. So do you mind maybe clarifying, because I want to make sure we're all understanding each other and what we're meaning to say. Commissioner Mason.
My concern is, I understand and my sympathy and my heart goes out to you. And I understand why this law was put into place because of what happened in EC with the little girl walking down on Euclid coming from the library. I do understand. I'm not going to ever take that away from a situation. Your feelings, anyone else's feelings, hell, it could be my kid. But at the same time, if we just had a situation yesterday, from the time it was an incident that started in Parma and it went to Brooklyn, and it was doing normal business school hours. We can't, so the officers are supposed to stop and not pursue because we're in that time of 2 to 5, Monday through Friday. What about football games? What about sporting events? What about other events that are going on? We cannot put tie these guys' hands. That's really, the pursuit policy is good. I'm good with the pursuit policy. I'm just concerned about that 2 to 5, Monday through Friday. What about Saturday and Sunday? I go to church on Sunday. Pursuit can happen on Sunday. So there's too many, that is tying their hands. And I think we can work something out instead of putting that into writing.
So go Commissioner Chura, and then we'll go to Commissioner Umosen.
Thank you. Through the chair. Oh, my bad.
To the chair, I have a couple of concerns with the GPO. Under definition of armed and dangerous, it more or less pertains to firearms, where, you know, not everybody's assaulted with firearms. It could be a knife, it could be a bat, it could be just bodily force beating the hell out of somebody to death. I think that has to be revised a bit there. Procedures too, with the probable cause. I think it has to be spelled out. Who's going to determine the probable cause? Is it going to be the officers, the supervisor, or, you know, how is it going to work down the line? If you're going to raise the standard from reasonable suspicion to a probable cause. I also have a problem with the school hours. I think that would be more appropriate instead of taking it in procedures under Section E. I think that should be sent to procedures initiation criteria, Section C1. I think it's a good thing to have in there for the officers, which that part goes over all the conditions that they have to consider. So putting the hours of Cleveland school system in there might be good for arrival and dismissal, so that they have an idea generally when the schools are getting out. So they have an idea when the kids will be out and about. That's something the supervisor could use to determine whether to continue to pursue or terminate. And I think I understand the frustration, but I think you got to remember that these criminals, I mean, that's where the anger should be. If we're going to, I think we should advocate for, you know, higher penalties through the legislators so that
For sure.
anybody that runs from the police, especially in these situations, you know, goes away for a while. Other than that, I think the GPO is well written. I have really no problems with any of it, other than those 3 things I just mentioned.
For sure, I agree with everything you said, and this is not, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I did that to Chura, so my bad. I was just going to say, the part that confused me personally was the 2 to 5 through the CMSD school year. But then what also came to mind, I know we were talking about was, like, are we talking school zone? Or, you know, when we talk about the school year, was a confusing part. If there's no chases through a CMSD school zone, then that can be perceived as something else compared to just no chases in the school year. Are we already talking about in school zones by saying this?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, is anybody commenting?
Yeah, to the chair.
To the chair, oh, go ahead, Pete, I'm sorry.
Commissioner
In
Van Leer.
response to me, it's not about school zones. It doesn't delineate, specific zones. And I would say that, one point of interest for me is that we can't take a right turn on red between 2:30 and 4:30 every school day, right? So, it certainly seems doable. I know this is a very different situation, but it is not a school zone. That directly to the chair, it's not a school zone issue. It's more a blanket approach in the city of Cleveland where the division of police work.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yeah, let me further clarify, and because as you think about these things, my suggestion, I'll take the school zone out, and I'm just saying that in that, if the pursuit is into a community, just like they issue Amber Alerts for children that have been kidnapped, they issue them in those communities. So I'm just saying that if there's a pursuit and it's going through a community, so that the community folks know that something is happening in that community, so they can make sure that they keep themselves safe, not put extra burden on the police department, but whatever. I don't know what the system is that they use to issue these alerts. I just know we get them from somebody somewhere. I don't know if it's a 311. I just know that I get them on the phone. So I'm saying to protect everybody, they issue an alert that a pursuit is taking place through a certain community. And then when the pursuit either concludes or passes through that community, then the alert could be canceled. That's the only thing I'm suggesting. So I'll take the school time, the school zone, just whenever there's a pursuit, that we issue an alert that so people can be on notice and to keep themselves out of harm's way.
Co-Chair Zayed, thank you.
I just want to say, in me wanting this to be this policy to pass, it's not a slight against officers. I actually believe less chases of course, less chases would mean, the safety of our officers as well. I just think that we should prioritize children. There are many other cities and jurisdictions that have already moved toward stricter pursuit policies, and just to assist with public safety. And to Commissioner Nelson's point, I think that this may be time for the police department to evolve and maybe rethink its tactics and maybe make a better use of technology. That's just where I am. I think I'll just leave this, that we need to prioritize children. I think this that Commissioner Benito and Coleman did a great job on this policy, and I would like to see it passed.
So are you going to go, Commissioner Nelson?
To the committee chairperson, to Mr. Van Leer, would you be open to an amendment regarding the issue of an Amber Alert as an amendment to your policy? I don't know which one of the sections it would fall in, but in the general policy, that there be I don't know if you call it an Amber Alert, but an alert by whatever name they call it.
Would it be okay if we iron out the language and kind of discuss the idea more and maybe kind of present it in the next meeting?
That's acceptable to me.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that I think that this is a great discussion. We know that this is a difficult policy. We don't want to handicap the officers, but we want to protect the citizens of the city, and that is sort of the dilemma that we're in. I'm going to just say that I am in total agreement with what Commissioner Nelson is saying about some type of alert. Clearly the technology is available. The police have a massive budget. We know that for the past however many years, they've been budgeted for, I think they're budgeted for 1,600 officers. And over the previous years, those funds have gone into a separate fund because they haven't been used because the recruitment hasn't successfully recruited all the officers. So I think that this should be within the ability of the officers to acquire the technology needed. I would go further, Judge Nelson, and I would not just want that community put on alert, I would want the entire city put on alert. Because what we know from past pursuits is that they can move from one place to another place, one part of the city to another part of the city very, very quickly. So I would I would support what you're proposing, but I think that, if, like, say, for example, a, a, I live on the west side, if there's a pursuit that may not necessarily be in my immediate neighborhood, but what if I have plans to go somewhere in the city? I would like to be aware that the pursuit is happening. So I would just take that a little bit further. And I also want to say that as an educator, and I know Sharina talked about it in terms of her family's, the impact on her family, but I will tell you that the loss of children and students in school communities is also just as devastating. And so I would continue to push for, the 2 to 5. And I mean, I believe that, there shouldn't be pursuits when children are transporting to and from school in the morning and in the afternoon. But I agree that there are some good points made, and perhaps, despite all of the great work of the policy committee, we may need to revisit. What I will ask, and I do want to remind commissioners, is that Commissioner Van Leer and the policy committee, they have given us a lot of time to look at this policy, and so I would encourage us to have those conversations with him as a policy chair, with the members of the committee, and then maybe we can, get a little bit further in some of these discussions, because they're valid points, but we should maybe start those conversations beforehand so that perhaps we can not move them, have to, take it to another meeting. But I do think this policy is important enough that we have to get this right. Like, we have to get this right. We have to listen to all of the different opinions, and I think this is a really good example of where the diversity of the commission works, right? The different backgrounds in this policy. So I just wanted to just say that. I know that, I was hoping we would pass it, but I think that, there are some things that we might still need to iron out. But I just want to make sure that we don't save our comments on these policies and things like that for the meeting, that we would start discussions beforehand.
So through the chair, I can withdraw my motion and postpone this vote and do some more investigation and discussion on the issue.
And to the chair, to the committee chairperson, did engage in the conversation I had at his policy committee meeting, and it was some of the officers who pushed back. And at that time, we were actually thinking on the fly. And then after the meeting was over, some other thoughts generated. So they did work hard, extremely hard on this policy, and I would not want to delay it unnecessarily. But I think that the suggestion to review it a little more, to incorporate some of the things that have been raised, is proper, and I support that. But I don't want him to think that we're trying to scotch all the hard work he did. Okay. All right, thank you.
Chair, thank you, Commissioner Nelson. So we will move on, if that's good. All right. So the next GPOs that we have, as I mentioned before, are the wearable and in-car camera systems GPOs, and that is 4.06.14, 4.06.15, and 4.06.16. So 0.14 is the definitions, 0.16 is the supervisory reviews and investigations, and those are fairly straightforward. They haven't changed. 4.06.15 is the general GPO on wearable and in-car camera systems. And again, this has been in the works for quite some time. More recently, we got some input from the division, and there were some suggestions made, and I think I highlighted those in my email to the commissioners last week. On page 2, section N, they suggested we add a prohibition against smart glasses or wearable devices that resemble traditional eyewear and incorporate digital recording, display, and communication capabilities. And we incorporated their language into the draft we passed out of the policy committee. And then they also had updated their system in terms of the numbers, and it's very technical, but basically they wanted to add an 8-digit number, and if a 4-digit year dash and an 8-digit number, incident number. So that was a change that was made from a previous version that was shared when we did not end up discussing this at the full commission meeting last month. So those are the changes there. And again, this is something that's been in the works for a while. And I will make a motion to pass all 3 GPOs, 4.06, 0.14, 0.15, and 0.16, wearable and in-car camera systems.
Second.
Okay, if not, we can call the vote, and this first one will be for the wearable.
You can do all 3 together.
Okay, so we're gonna call the vote. Co-Chair Adams?
Aye.
Commissioner Chura?
Aye.
Commissioner Mason?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez? Commissioner Umosin?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer?
Aye.
And I vote yes.
Okay, thank you, co-chairs, thank you, commissioners. So 2 other announcements. At our March 11th meeting of the Police Policy Committee, 6 p.m., the division, representative of the division in the city will be coming to talk to us about FUSIS, the platform that combines a lot of surveillance technology, the Real-Time Crime Center, and I think Flock as well. And so that'll be an hour-long presentation at the beginning of our meeting on March 11th, 6 p.m. And we've asked, I know one of our staff members has asked the TV20 to be here, so we have a good broadcast of it and a good recording of it. I would encourage my fellow commissioners to come if you have questions about those particular technologies and the division's use of them. If not, you could always give us your questions in advance, or you can watch it remotely. We'll figure out. I'd love to, or you can watch it after the fact, and we'll be discussing it moving forward as a full commission as well. But we thought it was something we've been asking for a while and trying to coordinate, and finally the pieces are, the right people are available, and we have that time that's going to be set aside at our next committee meeting.
To the chair, would you repeat the date?
March 11th, it's a Wednesday, so 2 weeks from today, I believe. 6 p.m. at our office. And we'll, community members are welcome as well. So that is the main thing. The other thing is just an announcement. I wanted to recognize that recently the city council passed and the mayor signed into law Tanisha's Law, which is not necessarily, at times in the past early on, actually before this current commission was seated, the CPC was engaged, and as some members of the CPC doing other work, like myself, have been engaged with this work. So I just wanted to mention it. It will create, it's not what the advocates were looking for, but it will create a new position in EMS that oversees community crisis response, which will take, route 911 calls to a non-police response. So I think while it's not directly related to police oversight, it certainly has an impact on how police respond or don't respond to people who are undergoing mental health crisis. They'll be doing checks, things that often would, when you call 911 now, you get police, fire, EMS. There'll be a 4th option, is how we're envisioning it, that will be for a mental health call or a different kind of call that will not automatically result in a police response. So you'll be getting social workers, hopefully peers. Right now it looks like EMTs on those calls, but not in typical EMS vehicles. So that work is still evolving, but that was recently, just earlier this month, the mayor signed it into law.
Thank you for that update, Commissioner Van Leer, and thank you for the work that you have done and all of the other folks that worked on Tanisha's Law to make our city that much safer. Thank you. We're going to move forward. We are going to skip over the Outreach Committee update because Commissioner Kincaid is absent and she did not provide a update. So we're going to move to Oh, okay, go ahead.
The mic is here. Please come to the table.
Yeah, she provided a bit of an update about the DPC report out. That report out will be taking place on March 2nd here at the MCC, Midtown Collaborative Center. It will replace her monthly outreach meeting, and because of paragraph 26 of the consent decree, the report out is supposed to happen before the full commission, and so not just her committee members. So if on March 2nd at the regular time, I believe her meetings begin at 5:30, 6 o'clock, we could have a quorum of commissioners to report here to the MCC for the DPC report out.
Okay, so my apologies, Commissioner Kincaid. Thank you for your update through our executive director. We're going to move on to the Budget and Grants Committee update given by that chair, Commissioner Umason.
Thank you. So the update that we have is, so on Sunday, we looked through every 2024 grantees file that we have, just making sure that they have the 9 documents that we can send to the law department. Because really the goal is to just send everyone's information at one time to the law department. And then that way everyone's contracts are drafted at one time. So that's the goal for that. Another thing too that I'm gonna go into is that we have a motion on the table to combine the 2024 and 2025 grants together. Just because 2025, you know, like as I mentioned before, we put a pause on it to make sure that grantees receive their 2024 funding first. And then what this does, combining both grant cycles, it's just doing right by our neighbors because we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to finish their community project. And so that's the goal for that. We've been talking about 2026 also of how we want to do it. We know this current process through the law department, finance department. You know, I'm not putting any blame on anybody out there, but we need a different process. So we've been talking about you know, funding going from whatever nonprofit we work with directly to grantees instead of the current process that's kind of been stalling a lot of funds. So that's the background for that. So the next thing I want to do is just bring that motion forward, combining the 2024 and 2025 grant cycle.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question. So, a lot of these have like contracts and MOUs. Would it like violate it, or how would that work?
Thank you for that question. Generally, it shouldn't violate any of the current processes we have in place. I would say that it's more so an invitation to if they wanted to receive additional funding, but it will be set up to where the contract will go into place for both. So anyone who wants to opt in, it would still go to the law department for that contract combining both. So it would go to the law department for their review.
And I will add, there still will be a vetting process, so there still will be a selection process. So not every single person that is asked or who sends that request to be extended will receive it based on whatever their budget or scope of work is, as we've vetted prior.
So just for clarification, so what's not happening is that you are awarded a 2024 grant, and then you automatically are going to receive the 2025 grant. We're treating them like 2 different bodies of work. So if you say that you acknowledge that you would like to have a 2025 grant and you've been given a 2024 grant, you will still have to submit a separate budget for 2025 and a different scope of sequence for 2025 as well. So it's not just like an automatic rollover from whatever program you have from 2024.
Yeah, it would still have to be reviewed. Of course, what this motion would be is an opportunity to give our neighbors an opportunity to continue the work they're doing if there's a new scope of work and things like that. So it's that opportunity to do it, but it would still go through our general channels of review.
And to your point, I think it's only right considering that they've been extremely patient with us.
And I just want to say one last thing. I think it's also kind of learning from what we've been through. we know that the majority of the organizations that we are going to award grants to are going to be community-based grassroots organizations. And what I think what we're starting to see is that once they go through the cumbersome process and they get started with their work, then it's like time for them if they need more funds to apply again. So I think we're considering this kind of like maybe like a pilot for like a 2-year grant cycle. Um, but what we don't want our grantees constantly bogged down and submitting paperwork to the CPC or UVF and the law department. So I think we're trying to learn from, where we are, and that this may be better for the grantees to allow them to focus on the work rather than always focusing on paperwork that they need to submit to somebody in the city.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, if none, we're going to call the vote. Co-Chair Adams?
Aye.
Commissioner Chura?
Aye.
Commissioner Mason?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller? Aye. Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
I'm gonna vote no.
Okay, Commissioner Umosin?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer?
Aye.
And I vote yes. This passes.
To the chair of the committee and to the co-chair, I had a discussion with a brief discussion with the committee chair, and it's a follow-up to the discussion I've had with some other folk. One of the things we may consider regarding grants is for while it's part of that we contract the whole process out, and listen to me carefully, to a entity, and it could be United Black Fund, Cleveland Foundation, or some entity that has a significant cash reserve, so that we can eliminate. I feel so sorry for the folk who've been waiting for these grants. When I did my $500,000 grant with the city back in '79, they advanced me $50,000 so we could get up and running, and it became a reimbursement. But they gave me the 50 up front. So if we identify if it's the United Black Fund or the foundation, they are in a position, because they have big enough cash reserve, that they could advance any of the organizations that are approved for grants. And then the grant recipient would turn in whatever they have to do to justify the receipt of their monies. And then that organization go fight with the city for reimbursements. So instead of the grantee having to wait for reimbursements, if though one of those entities would be willing to work with us, they could fund the recipients when they are approved, and then they would go fight with the city for the reimbursement. And their cash reserves could absorb that hit, and the recipients of the grantees wouldn't have to wait to get funded to start their work. We could think about that going forward, and as a way to really expedite this process.
Yeah, thank you for that, Judge Nelson. I completely agree. I think, and we're working on 2026 right now for how we want to do it. Other things that we've mentioned too is maybe putting together a work group so that we can have our neighbors, us be collaborative and talk about what the grant process should look like too, especially people who went through the process, on ways to make it easier. So I appreciate that input. That's one of the ways that we could definitely make the process smoother. So 2026, we're working on that right now at the same time for how we want to set that up. And those are kind of the things we've been floating around.
All right, thank you for that update, Commissioner Wilson, and your work on getting these grants, this grants program stabilized. We appreciate that. Next, we're going to move to our training committee update given by Chair of that committee, Antea Miller.
All right, hello everyone. Thank you for coming out. Just a brief update for the training committee. We have made contact with the CPD Community Policing Department, and we are currently awaiting for a response from the Deputy Chief Shalat, excuse me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, regarding scheduling a meeting to discuss collaboration opportunities, specifically in support of the Know Your Rights clinics and the Citizens Academy. So we look forward to making those connections with them soon. Reach out to us so we can explore how we can, how they can be helpful, and then we can line those efforts. Additionally, the training committee has been tasked with reviewing Session 2, which is the Integrated Communications Assessment and Tactics, which is ICAT, and the Internal Affairs IA. Training materials. We anticipate holding a thorough discussion and potentially taking a vote on these items before advancing to recommendation to the full committee in our March full commission meeting. So that's it from the from the committee, training.
Okay, next we have a brief update on our Promotions and Evaluations Committee. It's going to be given by Co-Chair Adams.
Alrighty, so, thank you. Where we stand on this is, and again, I want to take responsibility for this. We have a draft of a policy that was written for this. I'm tasked with revising that policy, and with everything that's been happening, it fell off the list of priorities. So I know that it needs to be there, so I'll take responsibility for that. So once I revise that policy, the group of commissioners that are working on this are going to continue to work on this. But that's where we are with that committee right now. And that's it.
We're going to move forward to new business. So first up is a discussion of the federal court motion to vacate the consent decree. I just thought that was something that we might want to discuss openly with all commissioners so you guys can give your opinions and thoughts about this. So we're going to open that up for discussion. If anyone has anything to say.
I guess I'll start. I'm going to go on the record and say that I think we all can acknowledge that there have definitely been improvements in policing since the start of the consent decree. However, part of what has to happen with the consent decree leaving is that there needs to be structures in place to sustain the changes or improvements that have occurred as a result of the consent decree. And currently what we have an unstable civilian oversight of the police right now. We as a body, we just got a permanent executive director for the first time in 3 years of our existence. We have one staff member currently working for that executive director. She is in the process of staffing. And we've heard one case, and we haven't gotten into the type of routines that we need to be in order to continue to be the oversight body. Because once the consent decree leaves, with the Office of Professional Standards and the Civilian Police Review Board, we are oversight. And I don't know if anyone on this commission would say that we are where we need to be in order to do that work. Can we do that work? Absolutely, we can do the work. But we need proper staffing. We need proper procedures and routines in place in order to do that work. And one of the areas that I feel is needed, the city still has not done the work on community engagement. That is a critical piece of the consent decree. Based on the statements that the city has made, I believe that they are aware that that is an area. So in the press conference, there was discussion about, that being an area where they wanted to focus. But I think that focus should happen before we get out of the consent decree so that it can continue after we exit the consent decree. So I believe that as the final authority on policies and training and discipline, I do believe that we as a body, we should strongly consider having a position on whether or not we support that the consent decree should be ended. And I would like to note that in that announcement and in that motion that was filed, every other part of the civilian oversight structure had some type of statement or input except for the CPC. And to me, I don't think that we can proceed like that. Whether the CPC agrees with the position of whatever the city's position was on that decision, we should have had a say. We should have had a voice. We should have had a seat at the table. And I think that as we're moving forward, as the final authority on those critical issues of discipline policy training, I believe that we should be at the table. And I think that for that reason, I believe that we're not ready to exit the consent decree. I believe that according to the monitor, there were 3 out of 8 categories that were really addressed. I think those areas, I know there was use of force, search and seizure, and I want to say bias-free policing that they addressed in their 82-page motion to the court. But I don't think that 3 out of 8 is sufficient to exit the consent decree. Acknowledge the progress. Let's work on the other areas. But I believe that as the final authority in critical areas for the police department, I believe that we should strongly consider taking a position because it's important. It's important to the people. It's important to the future. It's important to how this is going to function. So I would just like to leave that with everyone.
To the chair. If I had been the advisor to the mayor or the law director, what I would have suggested before filing said motion was a status conference to discuss what I thought was substantial compliance. And I would have prepared charts. On this side would have been what we completed, and on this side would have been what was not completed. And if this side was not longer than this side, I would not have filed the motion. I would have had a sit down with the judge to discuss with the monitoring commission what progress we made, and then use that meeting to go back and sort of organize around those issues that we were short on or long on. Then secondly, I would have read the consent decree to make sure that I met the minimum requirements, which means you have to be able to sustain whatever it was you suggest you have accomplished over a period of years. So some of this was in black and white. And I think that the way it was pursued, one, to the judge, if I had been judge, I'd have been ticked off for coming at me that way. And secondly, because I understand, I could be wrong about this, that there was a status conference scheduled. And of course, we have 2 members from the Monitoring Commission here. I think there was a status conference scheduled, and I think it was converted when they filed the motion. I may be wrong on that. But in any event, I think that the approach was premature, and one really probably aggravated the judge. And I would have tried to avoid that. You don't want to aggravate the judge. It's just not something you want to do, especially when this is when the parties at the table are there over a document that controls the issue that the court will be considering. So that would have been my advice to those parties. And I would have used that as an opportunity to sort of evaluate what I actually had accomplished and where I needed to catch up in order to talk about my compliance. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
And I know another thing that came up was like the difficulty in measuring community trust. So before, I think, leaving the consent decree is there has to be something to come up with to measure it in some way. Either that's talking to everybody or, doing surveys, certain things. It's like something has to be come up with to have a ground level understanding of like the pulse of our neighbors. So before anything else happens, I think we do need some sort of pulse to come up with. That has to happen for community trust before we can move.
Any more comments?
I'll say, I believe that oversight only works if there's transparency included, and oversight is not punishment, it's a form of protection. So if we're going to talk about ending the consent decree, then we must talk about concrete safeguards, as Co-Chair Adams stated, put in place to make sure there's no backsliding. And we need consistent evidence that things have actually changed, systemic change and cultural change. And it's clear that if the process to end this consent decree excluded the body that was created to represent the people, and that is the commission, then that is a clear indication, a clear signal that there is very limited cultural change, and that maybe control is valued more than collaboration. So I suggest that and ask that the city collaborate with the police commission moving forward in this issue. Is there any further discussion? If none, we're going to move forward. And I'm going to say this. I encourage any community members who have opinions, send your thoughts to the judge, send your thoughts to us. We're discussing what maybe possibly having community forums and panels to discuss this issue. We know it's a hot button issue right now. A lot of community members are very upset. They feel like some of their safeguards are being taken away. So just reach out to us, and we're open to that discussion with you. We're going to move forward to new business. I'm sorry. We're in new business. We're going to skip over this discussion of the conflict of interest between the collective bargaining agreement and the city charter, because we're still waiting on information from the IG that we needed to have this discussion. So I'm going to ask that if it's okay, we skip over this. Yeah, because the findings of the report aren't available yet. So if that's okay, we're going to skip over it and go to our second public comment, and we don't have anyone. Is there? Oh, you there? Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to speak on the consent decree. The consent decree, well, the Department of the DOJ was here when my brother Craig got killed by the police. It was Craig Bickerstaff, Jermaine Sanders, Ricardo Mason, and Keith Moore. They got killed like less than 30 days apart. Jermaine Sanders and my brother got killed 6 days apart, but then January when Jane Campbell had just took office. So remember now, this is the first time we had a judge, first time. It was just a DOJ back then. And this is what happened. The police stood down and let the crime occur. So when the crime was so bad, they couldn't get to the oversight and get to the reform. So what they did, they rushed together, they did a report, and then it was gone. So trust and believe, these officers, and I'm not going to say all of them, they're going to revert back to their old behaviors. The mayor made a very wrong decision. Whoever advised him wrong. He jumped in feet first. Commissioner Nelson spoke on that. I was thinking before they did something to the court, file a motion, they would come out to the public and do charts and graphs and say, this is where we was back in 15. Here we are today. Here's what we did to get better. This is what we're working on. They didn't do that. They called this a sneak attack, but we was on top of it. Citizens Safe for Cleveland was on top of it. We went to the court hearing the next day, and the judge wasn't happy about it because of the way it was done. So at the end of the day, I question the competency of the mayor, being the mayor of the city. And this is a mayor that I voted for. This is a mayor who said he backs reform. And I don't think he does, because of his actions have showed that. And at the end of the day, I'm making a record of this, every member of this city need to speak up about that, about what Justin Bibb has done. Now, his plan is to get rid of the monitors, okay? It's cost too much money. But look at all the money is in the lawsuits that you have spent over the years. He has said, hey, this wasn't under my watch. It doesn't matter. It wasn't under your watch. It still occurred, and you have to deal with it. And he doesn't want to deal with it. So when we have leadership that don't want to deal with an issue, we're going to keep coming back to the same thing. And that's my spiel.
Thank you. Are there any other community members? We got to.
Good evening. My name is Terry Wong. I was the former commissioner on the police commission, and frankly, I was the only one working for independent civilian oversight, which is the requirement of the consent decree. As I entered this meeting, I was approached by security at this building and threatened with police arrest for merely attending this meeting. And Ms. Shelley Williams, the executive director of the commission, refused to allow me to stand to have public comment, so I will try to squeeze it in here. What is happening, and the community needs to know, is a conspiracy to end all external oversight of the police. And the commissioners that are on this commission are participating actively in it. Because why would you keep somebody off of public comment? Why would you not allow the truth to be spoken? Additionally, the public should know that Mark Griffin admitted on record that he approached the DOJ 5 months in last May to get rid of the consent decree. That was way before the monitor's report even came out. So it is political, it is intentional, and the public needs to know that if they're not successful with getting rid of the consent decree, which is probably probable, they will attempt to get rid of the commission. And that is why these commissioners are slow rolling everything and also violating massive laws along the way, even though you have 2 sitting commissioners who are attorneys. The public needs to know that the mission of the commission or of civilian oversight has not been met. So I question, if you guys are unable to do the work, maybe you're not corrupt, maybe you're just not able to do the work, because I see no work being done. Why are you even on this commission? Why, if you actually support the community's right to have constitutional policing, which is the floor, right? We're not even talking about great policing. We're just talking about the basic standard of not being able to violate the Constitution when you engage with the public. So why are you on this commission? And people don't have the time to listen to all these details, but one thing that is for certain is I'm telling the truth, because you're using police force to silence me. If I wasn't telling the truth, you merely say that I wasn't telling the truth. And you all are involved in a criminal conspiracy, not just against Mr. Tober, but against the public interest. And I will not rest until each and every one of you is held accountable, including not just Mayor Bibb, Blaine Griffin, Michael Hess, anybody that signed onto that egregious act of trying to preemptively end the consent decree. Because it was Mayor Bibb that did that. And unfortunately, if someone does that to end oversight before it's ready, he's the one that appointed you. He and Blaine are the ones that appointed you, including his point person, Adriana Rodriguez, who's known him ever since she was young. You guys are not independent. You guys show that with your lack of work. And if it's not just independence, you guys are frankly terrible at this job. Why not let somebody do the job that they're supposed to do? Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? You already have one. If not, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.